Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to these 24th session and administrative council with ASIPI in this beautiful city, Panama, that is taking us in with a warmth, a grain cold, because it's cold in here in this room, but with human warmth, the human warmth of its people. So we thank you very much for that. You must know there is a lot of work that goes into every single ASIPI event, executive committee, the host, staff, administrative staff of ASIPI puts a lot of work into these events. So we're very happy to be here and be able to start every single event in these sessions. We hope that when you finish, we can say that we are filled with satisfaction and joy for a job well done. Without further ado, let us officially begin with our event, listening to the Panamanian anthem.
Perdón, pero desconozco el himno de Panamá, no sabía.
So the Uruguayan anthem at some point stops and then it keeps going, but yeah, I wasn't sure about this one. Very well. I will introduce the distinguished members of the honorable table for our event today. Mr. Dr. Luis Sinar, head of the host committee in ASIPI. Marco Alaman, deputy director of intellectual property and innovation systems for intellectual property. Also Maria Eugenia, and this is the member of the Supreme Court in Panama, and also members of ASIPI, representatives from the host country, Ms. Lady Machuca, Superior Deputy against Intellectual Property and Computer Crimes, and also head of NIGERPI, former presidents of ASIPI, honorable members, honorable associate members, members of the host committee, representatives from Latin American entities for intellectual property, presidents, secretaries, coordinators, and members of committees, work groups, and ASIPI groups, ASIPI members, members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone. Welcome to these sessions with the Administrative Council and ASIPI. We thank very much our sponsors, endorsements, and partial sponsors. I am not mentioning the names. We have them all behind me, so we do not waste any time. And we would like to thank all of them, and this is definitely a proper appreciation. I would like to ask the members of the honorable table. We will now like to welcome the member of the host committee for ASIPI.
Honorable Dr. Maria Eugenia Arias, President of the Supreme Court of Panama, Dr. Luis Alejandro Enriquez, President of the Inter-American Association of Intellectual Property, ASIPI, members of the honor table, special guests, members of ASIPI, friends all. On behalf of the hosting committee of this event, it's a true honor to welcome you to the city of Panama for the holding of the 24th work session and administrative council of ASIPI. This year is very special because we don't celebrate only just what we call the large ASIPI, but also we are celebrating because we're commemorating the 60th anniversary of our dear association, which has been throughout decades a pillar, an essential pillar in the development of intellectual property in the region. This year, we're pleased to see that this event is taking place in the vibrant city of Panama, a place that is not only known because of its strategic role as a logistics center connecting oceans, but also because of its beauty and its profound contrasts. Panama is a country that mixes modern and traditional, urban and natural, in a harmony that inspires those who visit us. From its skyscrapers in its capital city to its paradise cities, beaches, mountains, and jungles, this country has to offer to all tastes. Our Panama Canal is an example of engineering that's unparalleled and continues to be a symbol of the global connection and the exchange of goods and services and ideas. But Panama is much more than a canal. Panama is also a melting pot of cultures, is a place with a rich history, with a unique identity that has been forged through the influence of different cultures, from the original peoples that inhabited these lands to the European colonizers and migrants from all corners of the world. Today, the capital, city of Panama, stands out of being cosmopolitan, a reflection of its diverse history and its connection to the whole world. Regarding gastronomy, Panama is a culinary destination that is emerging in the region as a result of that cosmopolitan nature we have, and allow us to see innovative fusions that attest the multiplicity of its population was not disregarded. In the past years, Panamanian coffee has become internationally renowned, beating price records and becoming a world reference points for the lovers of this beverage. Now, this event is not just an opportunity to explore and know the marvels of this country, but also to participate in interesting academic discussions regarding topics that are of great relevance for intellectual property in the Americas and in the world. In these sessions, we will delve into an array of key topics that go from the challenges of AI, the use of copyright in unfair competition, and important topics for the profession like the needs to keep mental health. The presence of experts throughout the region will allow us to exchange experiences and strengthen our network of collaboration and mutual knowledge. These sessions represent a unique opportunity to learn, discuss, and consider the future of our profession, and what better place than this city full of history, of cultural exchange, and new opportunities. I would like to thank the Executive Committee for the trust deposited in my person and giving the undeserved honor to chair the hosting committee. However, success is not for just one person, and I would like to thank all the colleagues from my country who have collaborated and continue to collaborate to make this event a success. I will have the opportunity to thank them personally. Finally, I would like to thank all of you for your presence and for contributing to make this event a meeting point for knowledge, cultures, and experiences. I am certain that this will be an enriching space for all, and that the fruits of this meeting will go beyond these days. I wish you a pleasant stay in the city of Panama, and that you enjoy the academic debates as well as the beauty of our country and the quality of its people. Welcome to the 24th Working Session and Administrative Council of ASIPI. On behalf of the hosting committee, we hope that the event meets all your expectations. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Luis. Monique,
Thank you, Luis, Monique, Moises, the whole hosting committee of Panama for the great work and for the love and human side that they are of these sessions. We will now listen to Maria Eugenia Lopez Arias, President of the Supreme Court of Justice of Panama. I forgot to ask for a little footstool that they always put for me here. Honorable Mr. Marco Alemán, Deputy Director General of the Intellectual Property Sector and Innovation Ecosystems of the World Organization of Intellectual Property, OMPI. Honorable Mr. Luis Enriquez, Chairman of the Inter-American Association of Intellectual Property, ASIPI. Honorable Mr. Hugo Gomez, Magistrate of the Court of Justice of the Andean Community. Honorable Mr. Luis Guinar, President of the Hosting Committee. Honorable Mr. Martín Pitaluga, Secretary of the Inter-American Association for Intellectual Property, ASIPI. Honorable Mr. Leonardo Uribe, Director General of the Industrial Property Registry, registered the distinguished experts, special guests, students, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I start these lines by thanking the President of the Inter-American Association for Intellectual Property, ASIPI, Magister Luis Enriquez, for honoring me with the distinction of addressing such a select audience to say a few welcoming words and having afforded me the opportunity of joining you in this such a special day. It is a great pleasure and a great honor for me as President of the Supreme Court of Justice of the Republic of Panama to give you the warmest of our welcomes to this such significant event, the 24th Work Sessions and Administrative Council organized by ASIPI. As a justice operator, I've seen firsthand the growth and evolution of legislation, the doctrine and jurisprudence in terms of intellectual property in the international environment as well in the local. In this sense, definitely it is mandatory compulsory to celebrate the core role that a CP has had in this growth and evolution. Congratulations. This achievement is a testimony of the hard work and devotion of all who have been part of this association throughout the years. I am overwhelmed by the presence, or your presence in this session that start today, because it shows your interest and commitment with the construction of a present and a future where respect and protection of intellectual property rights are a priority. I am convinced that this meeting will be a magnificent opportunity to study the most relevant topics and the latest trends in this sense. Today, more than ever, in a world that evolves quickly due to technology, it is of utmost importance to see the importance that intellectual property has, not only as a protection system, but as an engine for development and economic sustainability. digital innovations, AI, and globalization are redefining the boundaries of intellectual property. Therefore, it's necessary that we approach these changes with vision and responsibility. As president of our highest legal corporation, I want to express here once again and ensure you that the judiciary is committed to the protection of intellectual property rights because we are committed to justice. That is why we will continue to work strongly to ensure that the intellectual property rights are effectively protected and respected. I have no doubt that this will be an enriching experience for all participants, not only because of the knowledge that they will acquire and bolster, but because they will also have the opportunity of establishing professional and friendly, lasting links and create contact networks that most certainly will be extremely useful in your day to day work. We hope that you enjoy these sessions and that you benefit from the abundant knowledge and experiences that will be shared here. I encourage you to participate actively in the sessions, ask your questions, and share your perspectives and experiences. Without further ado, I wish each and every one of you an advantageous and inspiring academic program. Welcome. Thank you, Your Honor. We would ask now Dr. Marco Alemán to say a few words.
Señora Presidenta de la
Madam President of the Supreme Court of Justice, Maria Lopez Arias, Mr. Luis Enriquez, President of the Inter-American Intellectual Property Association, ASIPI, Luis Pinar, member of the host committee, esteemed members of the executive committee of ASIPI, esteemed ASIPI members, esteemed friends, on behalf of the General Director of the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, and my colleagues who are part of the delegation of WIPO that are in these sessions, allow us to express our satisfaction by allowing us to be able to be with you in this session, this 24th session of ASIPI in Panama City, and celebrate with you some milestones of 2024 in terms of intellectual property. Let me just mention a few so that we can celebrate them. First, the 60 years of ASIPI, a story that begins with the dream of a series of professionals in 1964 in Mexico, and this has been the reason for many series of works focused on intellectual property in the region, but has additionally been transforming in the professional lives of its members. In my specific case, I participated in the early 90s in an ASIPI that was held in the city of Bogota, and ever since I've kept close bonds with you. This was my first contact with intellectual property, and it's an international context. And I think that in a good part of it, this was the beginning of the career that allowed me to make it to deputy director of WIPO, and I have a lot of friendships in this network. Number two, we have to celebrate the recognition of the role that is ever more relevant when it comes to the intangible portions trying to create value. In a WIPO report from 2024, we see that the gap between investment in intangible rights and tangible rights is ever greater as of the year 2007. Investment in intangibles grew more in 1995 and 2023. In that period, while tangible assets only saw an increase of 70%. Some data programs and brands grew 3 times as much versus research and development between 2011 to 2021. And these are precisely the areas where the region of Latin America has the biggest opportunities. Number three, the interest for international protection in all intellectual property situations continues to grow, and the increase in the different requests speaks to two positive reasons. First, a greater number of resident requests in all categories, and in every single one of these requests, the agent, meaning you, impacted this very much. So they are made through the guide, consultancy, and advisory services that you provide to customers. And number two, the second reason for that increase in the international portion, this is the progress that is ever greater. Um, the value chains
No, yo no.
in the 21st century, and these value chains have integrated many countries in the global economy with a fast economic growth of those economies. In the WIPO report from 2017, they determined that at least a third of all products, or most of the products traded in the marketplace, corresponds to intellectual property assets. And this not only happens in situations of intense innovation, such as the case of smartphones, but it also happens when it comes to coffee, and we will get a chance to uh, listen to our keynote speaker further ahead and listen about this. Fourth, the services that WIPO provide contribute to the intellectual property ecosystem, and some numbers show us how they do it. In the last 45 years, the requests for patents that have been presented through the PCT are 5.3 million requests for patents that have been submitted in more than 150 countries. In the previous century, the Madrid system has allowed requesters to submit 14.5 million brands in more than 120 countries in the world. In the past 35 years, the Hague system has allowed for the protection of more than 3.5 million industrial designs in more than 80 countries. Ever since December 1999, the Arbitrage and Mediation Center has allowed more than 70,000 cases based on conflict resolution systems where their owners and the owners of the brand have been able to protect their brand against registration and poor use of their brand names. In each one of these processes, one of you were connected to this request being submitted, or these cases being submitted, and protecting these intangible assets for these asset owners. And lastly, before I finish, on the regulatory framework for the international uh, spectrum for WIPO, we received Treaty 128 managed by the World Intellectual Property Organization, the Riyadh Agreement on the Design for Industrials. And you would agree with me that 2024 is and has been a very important year for intellectual property, and every single one of these milestones deserves a celebration during these work sessions. I wish you successful sessions. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Marco.
Thank you, Marco. We will now ask our president, Mr. Luis Enriquez, to take the stage.
noches a todos.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Dr. Maria Eugenia Lopez Arias, head of the Supreme Court of Justice in Panama. Honorable Dr. Mattia Aleman, deputy director of the World International Intellectual Property Organization and also head of the host committee. Esteemed presidents, ASIPI members, organizing committee sponsors, colleagues, and friends. It is a great honor to welcome you to this opening ceremony of the 24th work session at Administrative Council sessions of ASIPI in the beautiful city of Panama. I would like to begin by expressing my most sincere appreciation to the host committee led by Luis Guinar and the flawless work that was put into organizing this event, as well as the international delegates, Moises Ferreira and Monique Deguer. Thank you for your cooperation. I would also like to express my appreciation to all of you who traveled from different places throughout the continent to share with us during these sessions in this week, learning, collaboration, and celebration. This event is more than a meeting of colleagues. This is an opportunity so we can reflect on the crucial role of intellectual property as a driver for economic development in our communities. To celebrate this event in Panama has a special meaning. This country, with its history as a connection point between the Americas, symbolizes collaboration and exchange of ideas and values that are the essence of ASIPI. Panama inspires us to think big, to build bridges, and to strengthen the relationships that make our association a reference in the region and in the world. We are expecting to have unforgettable days with very rich sessions and unforgettable moments. Hopefully, during this event, we can enjoy the hospitality of Panama and we can renew together our commitment with the values that have represented ASIPI for 60 decades. In the past 60 years, have taken us to a moment that fills us with appreciation and gratitude. This is a moment so we can look back at everything we've achieved and take a look at the journey we've taken on. During this time, we have overcome challenges, forged alliances, and we have turned our association, leaving a very significant mark, a footprint in the region. Behind every single progress, there is a story, and behind every single story, we have exceptional people. Thank you to all of you who, with your commitment and vision, have been a key part of this journey. Today, we are celebrating our past, we embrace our future, and we will renovate our energy so we can build a future that is even more promising. I invite you to please watch a very special video together with the book you received. It is an homage to celebrate those men and women who have been a part of ASIPI in 60 years. 60 years, a group of visionaries met with a common idea: the power of human relations, collaboration, and the transformative power of intellectual property. And on those pillars, they built ASIPI. These 60 years of ASIPI is a great time for our association. Together, we are embracing the new challenges and opportunities. It is a privilege to be a part of this distinguished group. The success of ASIPI, and we've seen it for 60 years. May we be together for many more years in success. So happy to be here with friends and colleagues. Big hugs to all the members. 66 decades of tireless work. Long live ASIPI for many years. Congratulations to ASIPI for its 60 years, for the future of ASIPI, to continue to push for innovation and protecting intellectual property. Today, we are a network of connections, generators of ideas and creativity. We are agents of change, pushing for innovation and protecting creativity in our region. And we continue to move forward stronger than ever, proud to be the pioneers in the region, and we are committed to continue to lead the way towards the future where intellectual property is an engine for progress and development for our countries. Today, we look back at 60 years of history, a timeline to take a look at our beautiful family of ASIPI colleagues and friends who have built this legacy. Thank you. Thanks to technological advances and international in artificial intelligence, we see these images that connect us to our past. We see this with pride and towards the future. Very excited and imagining everything that we will do together in the next 60 years.
Gracias y feliz aniversario.
Thank you and happy anniversary, ASIPI. A year ago, I took on the ASIPI presidency with the firm commitment to improve the positioning of our association as a reference in the intellectual property world and other areas. We have taken on a journey filled with the challenges, achievements, always with our eyes on strengthening the presence and deepening and expanding the presence of ASIPI in the region. This would have not been possible without the unconditional support from all of you. That is why I would like to thank the Executive Committee, national delegates, and all the people who are part of committees and work groups, special commissions, ASIPI Academy, and other programs. To highlight these achievements, I am happy to share with you a summary of the valuable work we've been able to build together. This video not only highlights the goals we've met, but also gathers the spirit that inspires us every day and reiterates our commitment to continue to move forward with a commitment and passion. I apologize if something is not here in the video. It has been very difficult to summarize everything in such little time. 2024 has been a year of a lot of progress for ASIPI, led by joint work, strategic partnerships, and a renovated commitment with intellectual property as a driver for development in the region. Please share with us to take a look at this a journey of development. We started with coordination meetings in Mexico, establishing the baseline for the work we do. We presented our government plan. We designated committee leaders, special commissions, work groups, and programs, consolidating our internal structure. And we also communicated to national authorities and international authorities that we put together our new committees and national delegates. During this process, we put together a special meeting for national delegates and the Administrative Council, trying to get more participation and strategic participation. As part of our presence in the region, we held strategic visits. We started having them in Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Panama, putting together specific agendas for each country and establishing specific commitments. In Chile, we strengthened the relationship with INAP, with the Department of Intellectual Property and Intellectual Rights. We also established a close relationship with the University of Los Andes and some other issues. In Peru, we started collaboration with the General Secretariat of the Intellectual Property Agency in Peru. We also sat down and had some training sessions with customs, police, and some other authorities. In Ecuador, we met with Supreme Court justice in the Andean community and also the justice system. We visited the Isterios University, the Andean University, the chamber in Quito, and the Ministry of Education so we could develop different initiatives together. In Panama, we gathered meetings with different authorities focused on intellectual property in the country, and we got support from our national delegates in putting together our sessions in Panama. In Guatemala, we held meetings with the Civil Court and the Supreme Court of Justice, the Justice Training Center, and other areas. We also put together some activities with the El Valle University and the Marroquí University in Honduras. We held visits with different authorities attempting to schedule meetings in the next few months. As some of the activities we put together, we have to mention the collaboration focused on surveys and different research initiatives, updating databases, promoting and disseminating information, also training sessions and activities to commemorate the day for intellectual property. And we also celebrated the anniversary of ASIPI in Argentina. We are in the process of getting collaboration agreements with LIMPI and the National Association of Intellectual Rights in the country, and we're working on our 2025 meeting in Buenos Aires. In Bolivia, we have trained entrepreneurs together with the ASIPI entrepreneurship program, and we've also worked with the Bolivian German Chamber of Commerce and also other issues on geographical areas. In Brazil, we've worked with the INTE, with the support with INPI. We took a look at monetization and management of intangibles. In Bolivia, we also worked on a manual for designing industrial frameworks in the Andean region and a roundtable on decisions focused on the direction. This is focused on AI and dynamic blocking of dominions. In Paraguay, we work with the NAPI. We also work with the Supreme Court of Justice and the Vegetable Variety Owners Association in Paraguay. And Puerto Rico, we approached the Inter-American University so we could hold events on cuisine and intellectual property. In the Dominican Republic, we sat down with the National Office for Copyrights in Venezuela. We held meetings. We held the second session for intellectual property in INEP. This was held together with the University of Venezuela and the Metropolitan University focused on intellectual property. We also held the the 17th Forum on Intellectual Property in Venezuela. We talked about industrial property and the seven transformation towards 2030, held by the Transformation Intellectual Property Transformation Office within the for National Commerce in Venezuela. In our management, we have strengthened our baselines with special committees that had already been working in the previous administration. Now we are adding work groups. With the active participation of 413 associates, we now have new initiatives. The ASIPI committees have worked on putting together webinars and podcasts and generating articles for our ASIPI World newsletter. They have also worked in putting together contests, gathering information for putting together interactive maps, putting together the ASIPI Academy set of courses, and also the academic programs for in-person events. These are the main initiatives that we completed in 2024. The Social Action Committee was highlighted by the Donate Your Shoes and Leave a Footprint. We also have the blood donation campaigns, ASIPI Arte, which is part of our RSC program, and the Office Administration Committees, Jurisprudence and Harmonization Committees. They've held several webinars. Contributions to ASIPI World. Anti-Piracy Committee. That Anti-Piracy Committee talked about piracy in Panama and forgery. They talked about AI and the metacrime topic. Also things related to fighting against intellectual property breaches. They also put together the regulatory framework for pharmaceutical products, foods and devices, and put together a 360 vision for cannabis. They also talked about free trade for intellectual property attorneys, and they had distinguished attorneys and academics that are focused on this topic. The Copyright Committee talked about a series of things that look at the existing regulation on AI and how this is connected to copyrights and its ongoing generation of content. We held together webinars and podcasts. We held a contest for the best industrial designs that had 49 candidates from 8 countries. Also, information was submitted for an interactive map for industrial designs in Ibero-America. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is now part of the relevant date celebration through social media, focusing on inclusion, equity, and diversity, and respecting DEI, and also celebrating our sessions in Panama. The Fashion Law Committee put together the first ASIPI contest, Sustainable Fashion. They also put together seminars together with APADEPI and also the Association of Attorneys from the capital city in Argentina, together with the bar in Panama as well. The Geographical Indications Committee looked at geographical indications and denominations of origin. They also put together the denominations of origin map. This was done in Panama. And the committee was part of the International Conference on Collective Rights focused on industrial rights in Bolivia and denominations of origin, current challenges for the Andean region. The members of the informative handbook for countries listed the series of countries and some of the regulations for these countries, which will be put together through an interactive map held by ASIPI. And the brand committee has put together an interactive plan, and they have been highlighted by a series of training sessions for Peru, Venezuela, Paraguay, and Chile. Also, the Mediation, Conciliation, and Arbitration Committee put together sessions focused on Paraguay's intellectual property and others, and this entity recognized our arbitration specialists, and they focus on mediation and conciliation. The Patent Committee has focused on the green innovation contest, and they are putting together a patent system which will be reviewed during the Panama program sessions. And the Data Protection Committee put together a course, Personal Data Protection Introduction course. The Advertising Committee reviewed issues on advertisement in the region. The Technology Committee put together an internal list of professionals that are focused on technological issues or IT issues. The valuation, monetization, and commercialization of intangibles has been looking at the valuation of intangibles. This has been requested by the INPE in Brazil. The Vegetable Varieties Committee, lastly, has been participating in international seminars in Paraguay and Peru. So there are 7 special commissions that contributed with research and development, putting together activities, webinars, and events. During this period, the new Commission on International Treaties was created. Let us review their achievements. The Ethics Committee had a session on compliance and ethics focused on intellectual property. The Country Brand Office held a meeting in Peru focused on the country brand, and they've been putting together an interactive map. The ASIPI Future is our project nesting project. They've been putting together different sustainability projects with the ASIPI program. The AI Observatory Committee put together a chapter for a book that was released in the Andean University in Chile. This was focused on AI and how this is connected to state affairs. There is an academic program that was put together for Panama. The 7 work groups have been working intensely in developing special studies. The work that has been done this year, impact on denominations of origin in Mexico, Colombia, and Peru. Traditional specialties, guaranteed traditional specialties. The cannabis industry and its regulation in Latin America. Consolidated information has been presented for an interactive map. Some other 4 are scheduled to be submitted next year. A special mention for the role of universities focused on IP. This has been worked on by a university in Ecuador, the Andean University. There have been a series of intellectual property topics that have been reviewed, and webinars have been put together in the host cities host cities where they have the in-person events of ASIPI. In this first year of management, the strengthening of ASIPI programs has grown with specific actions. We have specific programs that were empowered, and we've developed new initiatives from ASIPI Academy. We have different courses, and we were able to get 46.5% attendance compared to 2023. By 2020, for 2025, we have new courses prepared. We are working this year together with our committees. ASIPI Educa is moving forward with in great length. We put together videos as learning materials in schools throughout the countries. An initiative very similar is being put together in Uruguay. A CP Entrepreneur is a set of courses and workshops and training activities in countries like Peru, Venezuela, Bolivia, Guatemala, and Panama. With 170 associates enrolled in the program and more than 80 cases received since the program was put together, a CP Pro Bono has been highlighted in the region. We have cases that come from WIPO, and we've already gotten results with two collective brands focusing on communities in Ecuador. A CP Green successfully put together the second edition of the Green Innovation Contest. Webinars have been held focusing on sustainability as well as several events in Venezuela, Peru, and collaborating with UNH Franklin Pierce School of Law. The ASIPI mentorship program, and in this period they have already implemented the mentorship program, and there are a list of mentors from ASIPI. We put together mentorship programs for ASIPI members in Guatemala and Panama. ASIPI Fit generated a lot of impact with transforming the race, the running tour. Also, they contributed with a lot of news and articles on fitness and health. ASIPI Clubs has four thematic areas: cuisine and wine, series and movies, reading, and chess. This last one is a new incorporation. ASIPI Youth is a specific program for this period, and they've already held their first coordination meetings in person in Antigua and in Panama. This year, we put together 42 webinars and translating them into Portuguese. We also produced 10 podcasts, and we put together 3 official publications. In 2024, we've been able to strengthen key relationships with the intellectual property communities in different countries. We've also worked with different national associations focusing on intellectual property, highlighting our presence and promoting intellectual property in every single country. In the academic world, we've expanded our cooperation with more than 20 universities in Latin America and Europe. Also, together with the Franklin Pierce School of Law in the United States, we put together the second edition of 2024 scholarships, and in October we launched the new edition for 2025. This year we were invited to participate in the program where we were represented by our representative Fabricio Modica as a special guest. We also had a special mention in international forums strengthening our relationships with different intellectual property entities and organizations. We put together the Moot Court, the Latin American Moot Court on Intellectual Property, its 4th edition, together with the INTA and the Court of Justice in the Andean region. We thank the ASIPI group that was in charge of the preparation and putting together the contest. Throughout the year, we have reiterated our presence with international organizations. We were present in the General Assemblies of WIPO in Geneva, where we covered a very busy agenda, and we participated in different regional and bilateral meetings with authorities from the intellectual property members of the region in Latin America. And celebrating the 45 years of institutional life, we visited the Supreme Court of Justice in the Andean community, and we started collaboration works with their main office. With IPKey, we had tight communications with partners on different activities organized by them, and together we put together a webinar focused on vegetable varieties. Some other entities that we've worked with are CELAS, ASEPO, and OEI. We've also signed conventions with different chambers of commerce and bar associations in the region. With a turnout that has been incredible. The ASIPI meeting in Antigua talked about AI and its impact on intellectual property, and today we are getting started with ASIPI Panama celebrating 60 years of history, an event that highlights our leadership and commitment to defending and promoting intellectual property rights in the region. We strengthened our marketing team in the region. We have a new design so we can keep the ASIPI family in good communication. We renovated our website to offer a great navigation or streaming experience. We have our WhatsApp chat as an official communication channel. We also strengthen our commercial partnerships with our media sponsors and institutional sponsors. And we are proud to say that we have 1,176 partners. It is great to see the ASIPI family growing. 2024 was also a year for celebration. With commemorated 60 years growth and achievements, it is a great time to remember our history, to honor those who have contributed to our mission and working together for the future of the association. Thank you for being with us.
Bueno, quiero
I would like to once again thank each one of you for your commitment and participation in ASIPI Panama. This is just the beginning of a few days that will be full of experience, exchange, and celebration. I would like to thank once again the host committee, our sponsors, and everybody who has worked tirelessly to ensure that this event is possible. I would like to thank all of you as well, the true actors of ASIPI, for making this association a vibrant community full of purpose. Tonight, we've reviewed our roots, celebrated 6 decades of history, but we've also renewed our commitment to the future. ASIPI is more than just an organization. It's an engine for change and development for our region, and its impact will continue to grow thanks to the joint efforts of all of us. Thank you very much. Well, we finish now with the official part of the presentations by our distinguished members of our honor table, and I have the honor of introducing Mr. Ricardo Koyner, our keynote speaker, president of Kotowa Coffee, whose perspective will inspire us to continue building a world where intellectual property is an essential pillar for progress. Before welcoming him, I invite you to watch the following video.
Ricardo Koyner.
Ricardo Koyner. He's an agronomist engineer from the Zamorano University with a master's in agro-enterprise from the University of Florida in 1990. He has worked extensively in coffee, cocoa, chocolate, tea, and mountain tourism. In parallel, his activities include the production, processing, and roasting of coffee locally and to export to the US, Europe, Australia, Dubai, and Asia. And he has developed the Kotowa coffee shops chain in the country. He's the founding chairman of the Association of Special Coffees of Panama, the organization responsible for the world acknowledgement that Panama has in geisha coffee topics. He's also been a representative of the coffee sector in Panama before the Association of Special Coffees of the World, SACA, as well as the PRONCAF Coffee, international organization that promotes the development of this item at the Central American level. He's a fiduciary member of the internationally renowned the Zamorano Agricultural University. He's also owner of several agrotourism projects, among which we have mountain hotels, tourism guided with activities with the production and processing of coffee, tea, cocoa, and chocolate. ASIPI has the honor of introducing Ricardo Koyner. Mr. Ricardo, he was recently elected president of the Special Coffee Growers Association of Panama. Without further ado, I leave it to Ricardo in what we call today the Café Geisha de Panamá, the history behind success. Welcome, Ricardo. Thank you. For me, it is an honor to be here today and be able to share with you a little bit of the history of geisha coffee and history of Panama, history of a country that in less than 30 years was absolutely unknown in the coffee world, and it went on to become the reference country for luxury coffee and the country that broke all the paradigms so that it would cease to be a stock market and a product and commodity, and it would enter into the category of specialty beverages category. Panama is a small country. It's difficult to translate this because little is small. In Spanish, little and small are the same word. But we were trying to say here, Panama is a small country, but it's never been an insignificant country. Panama is a country full of pride and full of working people that has truly made this country a special country. I own the Kotowa farms. I've been introduced. I have some things to show you here, but I'll go through them really quick because I think that what really interests us is to understand how we went from where we were to being the icon we're currently here. I'm a fourth generation of producers. My story starts with my grandfather. My grandfather was Canadian. He had been a major and legislator. He had his businesses, and he read an article in the newspaper in the 1900s of a place called Boquete. Boquete is a small town in a tourism area in the highlands of Panama. He read the article and he decided that he would write to the person who wrote the article, so he traveled to Panama and he met my grandmother here. So he decided to set shop here in Panama. In 1914, then my mother followed after my, my grandfather died. Sena Marina, who is the name of one of my farms. I took over the farms in 1990 when I graduated, and now I have my two children graduated with their masters, and they're returning to coffee production and to the farm. Our philosophy and our vision is to produce high quality coffee and cacao that express unique terroirs. We'll talk about terroirs in a minute because this has been key for our country. But we always take into account the social and environmental aspects in everything we do. And our mission is to create exceptional experiences. We've been awarded in several occasions the best of Panama. That's a competition of the best coffee in Panama. We've won this competition in several categories. Twice we've gotten the Panama Cup, which is the farm that takes more coffees to the final tables, and we've been there for we've been finalists for over 50 times, and we've also been awarded twice by the Ministry of the Environment for our sustainability and clean industry projects, and also the social medal for eradicating child labor and other programs we have for our collaborators. Okay, here are some other awards. Farms we have in several regions in Panama, in Boquete, in Volcan, and in Bocas del Toro, which is their cacao lands. And these are some of the farms we have currently. And this is a map that shows the top of the map. That's the Atlantic Ocean or the Caribbean, and down below you have the Pacific Ocean. And these are farms that are in the highlands, and we have spread out intentionally in several sites that, although they're quite close to each other, maybe 5 kilometers from each other, but they have climate geographic and microclimate characteristics that are different that create highly differentiated flavors in coffee, specifically in geisha coffee. Our markets are Asia, Japan, mostly Taiwan, China, Korea, Singapore, Thailand, Europe, US, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, as well as others. We started working with chocolate a couple of years ago because it's similar in terms of production and processing as coffee and marketing. And although coffee is a little bit more ahead in specialty than cocoa, we see a great opportunity for us in the country because the coffee is produced in highlands and cacao is produced in lowlands. Additionally, we have the tourism activity, ecotourism, hanging bridges, camping, coffee tours. We have the only farm that produces tea in Panama. We have green, black, and red tea and white tea. We also do bird watching. Well, we have also rum, 300,000 300,000 bottles per year, and we have a special geisha coffee liquor. But let's talk a little bit about the history of geisha coffee in Panama. Panama went from being a country, like I said at the beginning, that was totally unknown, and it became the country with the most expensive coffees in the world, and this has been in a span of less than 30 years. And just to give you an idea of where we were, I recall that back in 1996, I approached the U.S. market when I was coming back from the university, and we went to coffee fair in the U.S. and I saw one of the stands that said, "We buy the best coffees in the world," and I thought, well, that's my coffee. So we went in there. And since at that time the coffee was sold by color and presentation, not really by flavor, the person said, "Oh, it's a nice coffee. Where's it from?" And I said, "Well, from Panama." He literally gave me the bag back. He literally said, "No, Panama is a canal. There's no coffee in Panama." I'm saying this just to show you where Panama was located 25, 30 years ago. But Panama had a great advantage. Panama was in the right place, and we'll explain that in a minute. And at the right time, a group of young people that were coming back to the farms, and we had a specificity. Well, our grandparents and we were returning because our parents had come to live in the city because the farm life was not a very promissory life. A life that is easier, and the farm was difficult and hard life, and without the economic rewards that the city would offer. And when we came back, this group of young people, the advantage was that our grandparents were tired, and they let us do what they thought was madness, but at the end, it turned out to be what Panama is currently right now. The coffee comes originally from the mountains of Ethiopia, coffee in Africa. The first thing we have is that by the 1200s it was drank as a beverage in Arabia and Yemen because the slaves would carry it. And somehow somebody was able to turn this into a beverage in the 1200s. In 1620 it arrived in Venice to the St. Mark Square, St. Marcus Square in 1620. That's the oldest coffee shop there. In 1725, the coffee came to the Americas, and it came because in the Muslim world, at a given point in time, they said coffee was a drug and it was forbidden. So it got to Europe a little bit with that stigma. Somebody had the initiative of giving coffee to the Pope. When the Pope tasted the coffee, he said that this was a beverage that was not from the devil, but it was a holy beverage, and that's when coffee actually started being grown and be sold in Europe. And it used to cost the equivalent $500 a pound or $1,000 a kilo because it was very scarce. In 1820, it reached Panama in Portobello and the highlands of Panama around 1820. Just to give you some perspective, the world produces 170 million bags, 60 kilo bags of coffee. Why 60 kilos? Well, nobody knows why that's the unit of measurement, but that's what it is. It is what it is. But the interesting thing is that Brazil produces around 60 million of these bags. Each country in Central America produces 5 to 7 million, and Panama only produces 200,000. We're very tiny in production because we have very little highlands that are suitable for coffee production. We're a small country the size of Florida and a population of 4.5 million. But we have mountains that are located in the western side of the country around the tallest peak is 11,000 feet where you can see both oceans with a fabulous view. But this elevation is also key because coffee, the higher the colder, and the colder the development process is slower, and this allows us to generate differentiated flavors. In 1995, when we were just getting started, the international market was at 60 cents per pound, $1.20 per kilogram. Back then, the harvest cost more than what we would get for it in the market. So back then, we decided to focus on other products for export, other vegetables, because we did not see a future in coffee. We were not even listed in the Coffee, Sugar, and Cocoa Exchange, which is the entity that regulates its commodities and assign the value. So if you wanted to sell Panama coffee, it was a discount of 60 cents. We were not known in the markets, and nobody would come to Panama to buy coffee. Internally, we started to understand, given the situation was that we had very little understanding of the coffee processes. And when I say processes, there's fermentation. Coffee has a pulp and a hull. Underneath, it has some honeys that have to be fermented in order to generate the right flavor or a good flavor. And if you don't do it properly, well, you have a flavor that could be bitter or acid or not really positive. We didn't understand fully the processes back then. We used to do the things back then like our grandparents, our great-grandparents did. There was very little collaboration among the parties and the producers. There was a lack of trust because when situations generate a crisis, that generates a lot of distrust among the parties. And we did not understand the value that the taste of the product could have. However, 28 years after, as I said before, Panama is the leader in luxury coffees price-wise. And I say this because a lot of people may say, yes, but there's a lot of good coffees. Yes, there is a lot of good coffees, but the reference here is the price paid by the International Community of Fine Coffees for Panama coffee. All countries have a competition displaying their best coffees, and those best coffees go to an auction. These are blind auctions. Panama was the first country that dared to have a competition, and we did it because we had to find a way to attract the market. It was very difficult back then to bring together a group of producers that didn't trust each other, so that only one would win and the rest would say, well, my coffee is not the best. But we had to do it because it was the only way we had to look for an alternative towards the market. In this world, in these activities where all countries have a coffee competition, the second country or the second highest price worldwide that different countries could have in different moments, it could be Guatemala, or Ethiopia, or whichever. They're in the neighborhood of $400 per pound. The third one maybe $300. Panama, last year we sold at $6,632 per pound, 12,000 plus dollars per kilo of coffee. the coffee that won the competition. And here we see the chart and see how prices went up throughout time. And a lot of funny things happened down the road because we made a lot of mistakes. We had a lot of experiences, but things happened. Like for example, back in we went from in 2006, 2007, the electronic auction, because these are electronic auctions. We send samples all around the world. Buyers go into a page. Everything's by code. Nobody knows who is bidding what. And the coffee went from $30 a pound, went 70, 80, and I said, oh, we're going to break the $100 threshold. And euphoria, we got to 99.99, and there, well, we were happy, and the auction was over because the auction ends when there's a 3-minute gap with no bids. It just so happens that no auction system had more than 2 digits because it was unthinkable that a coffee could exceed $100. And we only got $99.99. And after the auction, we got calls from the parties, and we had to finish the auction the following day. But it was interesting how we moved in a moment at times where often we did not think that we could achieve the prices we got. Now, how did this all happen? Like I said at the beginning, in the early 90s, Panama was at a crossroads. Do we quit or producing coffee, or we move on to other items? But something that really called our attention took place. We had the so-called Kona scandal. Kona has a coffee that was better valued than other coffees because of some specificities and because they generate a great offer, and they didn't have a lot of, they had a great demand and they didn't have a lot of product to offer. And there was this gentleman, his name was Ken Norton. He came up with the idea of buying coffee from Central America. He would put it in these drums in a shift, and in the next shift he would repackage. He would unpackage it, and then the next shift would package it in Kona bags. He did that for 3 years until the IRS caught him in the U.S. for tax fraud. But when this happened, we went to see why was there a country that part of the coffee in there was Panamanian, so we understood there was something special in our coffee. What we didn't understand our product, and we did not understand the market. And that's when we said we are going to work on the basis of understanding this so we can use this in our favor. And we started doing this without geisha, because geisha coffee came into scene in 2004. When we started, you saw the graphs at the beginning, the prices were low because we were not getting buyers. So we went to a fair, and the Special Coffees Association was made up by only 5 of us. And we wanted to carry out the first competition, but we did not have, every time we invited somebody, they would tell us that Panama didn't have any producers. So we went to a fair in the U.S., just the 5 of us, and we split up the sessions in the seminars, and each one of us had to go to each seminar for 10 minutes, raise our hands and say, I'm from Panama, and ask whatever question, regardless of the question, even dumb questions, it didn't matter. We would say, I'm from Panama, and we would ask something, and then we'd go to another seminar, and then to another seminar, and then to another seminar. And we had a very tiny stand. At the end of the event, the president of the World Association walked by, and she said, it's incredible that Panama has so many coffee producers. There was only 5 of us. Well, we told her what we had done, and she found it funny. But we invited her to come with us because we wanted to do carry out the first coffee competition in the world. She went, and when she came, she opened the door and buyers came behind her, and that is one of the things that we did at the beginning to try to attract international the international eyes or international interest towards us. Then back in 2004, a farm, the La Esmeralda farm, they found that they had planted a variety of coffee called Geisha, and Geisha has nothing to do with Japan. Geisha is a variety that came from the Ethiopian mountains called Geisha, but it sounded like geisha, and they wrote it down as geisha, and that's where the name comes from. So, well, one of the first things we did was that, as I said a while ago, we didn't understand our product. We started to learn how to taste. The tasting for us was, and understanding the tasting is to be able to put on a sheet of paper that currently is very well defined with a series of very clear criteria how you define the quality of coffee, where you, just like in wine, that you have taste, acidity, and other characteristics, and we were already tasting. These people found that geisha coffee, that what makes geisha coffee special is the floral or fruity undertones that make it different from other coffees. It does resemble somewhat tea. And geisha, it's very important that we understand this, is simply a variety. To be able to produce geisha, anybody can grow geisha. But to make it good geisha, it requires certain microclimates and certain processes which are defined by the terroir. So Panama, being such a small country, has some very special rainfall conditions, soils. We have 7 million-year-old soils, 3 million-year soils, volcans that have been dormant for thousands of years, and this generates different soils, generating different flavors in the coffee, just like we have an impact or the influence. Here we see yellow lines that bring rainfall from the Atlantic mixed with red lines coming from the Pacific. And this means that on one side of the mountain, we could literally have summer, and on the other side of the same mountain, it could be winter or rainy season. So this, once again, what does this cause? Well, we have different plants. If you go from one side of the mountain to the other, at simple sight, it's hard to tell the difference, but in these plants you have microorganisms living, and they are responsible for coffee fermentation. They are responsible for the the flavor at the end of the process. Like in the wine world, we can think about the white wine, rosé, and red wine. In white wine, there's no or very little influence from the pulp. Usually you do with green grapes, but technically we could have white wine with red grapes if we remove the pulp. And we have red wine that has the pulp has a lot to do with the color, but the coffee we have now, because this is new, because before we only used to wash, eliminate all the pulp. It's equivalent of a white wine, but now we have naturals, which are the ones that we let ferment with its pulps and honeys, and they can generate a great variety of flavors. And honey, which is like rosé, that has a little bit of influence from the pulp. At the end, fermentation is a process where there's an interaction and movement of chemical compounds from inside and towards the outside of the grain, and all of this creates a complexity, and it is caused by all these microorganisms. And I say this again because at the end I will explain what we're doing in this sense. These are dry trays, processing areas that are controlled with specific temperatures and humidity control, where we work. And this wheel, it's a little bit difficult to read, but it somewhat explains the array of flavors you may have if the coffee is washed, or if it's fermented in a natural manner, there's a large amount of flavors that you can, possible flavors you can generate. This has brought about, interestingly, people believe that when a farm activity is productive or profitable, the world will go into mass production and will go into deforestation. In the case of Panamanian coffee, this has brought about regenerative agriculture. This is a new term, it's almost a production philosophy. But the interesting thing about regenerative agriculture is that it seeks to regenerate the production environments as close as possible to its original status, but it allows that at the same time allows us to grow coffee. If you look to the left, this is a system. It's not coffee, no, but it's a normal conventional farming. You start losing soil, and to the right we see regenerative agriculture. We accumulate soil. Soil, it's the natural resource that we lose quicker around the world, and at the rate that we're losing it, by 2050 we'll only have half of the land, the farmland available for production. That's why it's so important to protect that land. So when we start a farm, initially, well, we buy a former farming lot free of trees. Then we have to generate these types of canopies or medium, low, and top layers. This is a farm after 7 years, and then we see here, this is a farm after 20 years. This farm is called Las Brujas, or the Witches. It's got an interesting history. When we bought the farm, nobody wanted to go there because it's got a little brook that disappears. It's a very remote farm. It disappears among rocks. Apparently, there is some underground caves, and people said that witches lived there. So we bought the farm, and we kept the name. We do believe it's haunted or something like that because it's generated a lot of international awards for us. In a nutshell, or summarizing, things that have been important, we were able to establish an association in 1996. I was the first chairman or president. I'm once again back in that position. We had to learn to understand our product, that was essential, and to set up competitions to get rid of the fear producers had to compete. That was critical, and it was extremely important. Move to the markets, not wait for the markets to come to us. Carry out the competitions to then attract the markets. Currently, Panama, between January and April, which is harvest time, we have hundreds and hundreds of coffee buyers from all over the world to the highlands to do cupping or tasting and pick the best lots, and have an electronic auction that to place these specialty coffees out there in the market. By 2026, we will have what we call the World of Coffee, WOC. Panama was able to. The World of Coffee is the most important event that brings together all the coffee growers in a convention. It usually takes place in the consumer countries. It could be in the US, Europe, or Asia. And when they finally decided to have a World of Coffee in a producing country, in spite of being so small and have such big countries adjacent to us that are large producers, we were able to get the first WOC in 2026 to take place here in our country, and we will have it. So we expect to have you here enjoying and drinking a lot of coffee. Markets. Why Asia? We understood that there's a preconceived taste among the people that drink coffee and things. Geishas taste like a fruity or floral tea, the market did not have that preconceived coffee taste idea was Asia. So we went to Asia, and Asia has been the one that has truly pushed this change in the world market. Western cultures are more difficult to change, but the change is taking place mostly among young people that currently have an interest for experiences. In this case, we're talking about coffee experiences, and it's because it's become trendy. Challenges, well, most certainly climate change brings about a lot of diseases and plagues and productions of cycles, a drop in productivity and drop in profitability. That's a great challenge not only for coffee but for all people in the farm world, everybody who's producing food stuff. Another great challenge is labor. People do not want to work in farms. We have to think about technologies and robotics and genetics and to look for better ways. And when I'm talking about genetics, I'm not talking about genetically modified GMOs. I'm talking about varieties, and there's a genetic system to understand which have the capacity of producing better taste. And above all, human resources. One of the most important challenges will be to be able to train good human resources. All problems, regardless of how difficult they are, can be sorted out if we have good human resources. The problem generally lies in the capacity of our human resources to generate critical thinking, creativity, communications, and collaboration that are necessary to be able to innovate and move forward. We learned that we were not the enemy. The enemy often, we believe, is not inside but outside. But if we find common points where we can collaborate, certainly that will make us move forward. We understood that it was not improper to think, or we understood that it was not bad to say that we did not understand. We did not understand a lot of things that we took for granted, and we started questioning them. Understanding this was key for us. Collaborate for a common goal. We saw other industries. We followed the wine industry, and we brought whatever we could from the wine industry into the coffee industry. We never stopped questioning our knowledge. And above all, perhaps the most important thing of all is that we have a passion for what we do. As I said at the beginning, from humble beginnings to remarkable achievements, Panama stands as a beacon of resilience, innovation, and shared prosperity. And it's a story that often inspires the world, especially the coffee world, and promises an even brighter tomorrow. And as my friend Price Peterson said, he's the owner of the farm where we found geisha. And there's an interesting video that they show in Copa Airlines, the story of geisha coffee in Panama. The 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 journey Panama has made has been success, failures, happiness and sadness, a lot of challenges. But like he said, it's been a good ride. It's been a good ride. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Ricardo, por esta maravillosa.
Thank you, Ricardo, for this beautiful story that you've shared. I would like to ask you to please watch a video from a new friend we made in Guatemala. This is an AI friend, and she will guide you to the cocktail session, the cocktail party, and tell you where to go. Thank you for being here in this ASIPI anniversary session and 24th session of ASIPI. I leave you with this video, and now you can go on to the cocktail session. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to Panama. We are happy to be here together again. The welcome cocktail session is in the lobby area at the hotel. You can go there through the stairs or take the elevators. We will have nice music, great flavors, and a beautiful view of Panama City for those of you who would like to do the show in Cinta Costera. We'll see you tomorrow at the lobby. For the rest of you, we shall see you at 9 a.m. here in this same room, so we can begin with the academic session in our first conference. May you all enjoy your sessions.